Welcome back, my Planet Coaster friends, to another episode of Yeti Land. Johnny 5 Alive here, and in this episode we're going to be finishing up our waterfall. We're going to be doing some more landscaping, and we're going to finally play around with animating some baby Yetis. So, it's going to be a fun one, I think. So stay tuned, and let's check it out. Alright, let's just dive right into it. As I mentioned in the last episode, this is my favorite series to do on the channel. It just allows me to get creative and hang out with you guys, the subscribers. And while it's just kind of me talking to the camera about what I'm doing, I really do feel like I am talking to you guys because you guys are so great in the comments. You respond nicely to everything. You guys give feedback, your thoughts, and all that. So it does really feel like a two-way conversation at the end of the day. And it really allows me to relax. Whereas some of the other videos, there's a little bit more pressure and a much wider audience. So these are much more personal, they're more fun. I get to teach you guys things, I get to talk about what I'm doing, and I could just go on little tangents and rants and say whatever I want, and it's all good and fun. So I love it. And I didn't mention this in the last episode, and it just came to mind while I was setting up the recording. I was having a little bit of a creative block. So in the last episode, you saw me jumping between the train tracks and doing a little bit of land and playing with the lighting, and I was just fidgeting with this and that, and I was just kind of like, what should I do? What should I do? And I needed to kind of also plan things for episodes and space things out. And because we haven't done Yeti Land in so long, and I've been working so much on the spotlights and getting videos out and trying to get the channel a little bit more popular, I haven't been able to actually play the game in a while. So because of my, dissidence with the game, is that a word? I haven't been in this like creative role. Whereas like when the game first came out, I pumped out like 30 items on the Steam Workshop and got my name out there before I even did a single spotlight video. So every single day it was just go creative, go creative, go creative. And when you get in these flow states, I should say, it's almost hard to break out of them. And the same could be said for the reverse effect. When you've been out of a flow state for so long, it's hard to get back into one. And Saturday, I literally couldn't get anything done. I think that's what the episode you guys saw last night, or I mean, whenever you watched it, the last episode, what was it, 6? Yeah, episode 6, whenever I released that. That's all I ended up doing all of Saturday, and it wasn't very much. It just had a creative block and couldn't get into it, and then Sunday, this is what you'll see in this episode, everything you're seeing now, and I actually have enough footage, I think, for another episode. So we're going to have another episode coming out, maybe after this. I might space them out, but started getting the flow state back a little bit, slowly starting to work into it, and now we're back into the regular week again, but I think I'm able to jump back into things based off of where we leave off after all of these episodes. I think we're in a really good spot to get really creative and get moving on with the Let's Play. I mean, right now, this isn't even a Let's Play. It's literally a Let's Prep. We're building a map so that we can start building a park. So, I think it says we're on like year 35 or something. At least that's where I am right now. Excuse me. And it says we're on like year 35 and we haven't even opened the park and we haven't even put down a ride. But we are literally just prepping the land for making a scenario map. Then we go play it. So I want there to be a lot of character in this scenario. And, excuse me. Sorry, guys. So yeah, I want to have all sorts of character in this scenario before we actually start building a park. So I've mentioned this before, like we want to have the Yeti War, we want to have the train stations, we want the Yetis, we want a really crazy terrain. So we have to like set all this stuff up. So in this episode, I'm really just playing around with new ideas and getting everything laid out. Or I guess in these 3 episodes for this week, it's a lot of prep work. But I like where we're at by the end of it, because I think by the end of the next episode, or maybe even this episode, no, definitely the next one, we have our terrain completed. So there's this whole flat area near our Papa Yeti Frank, and oh, that almost reminded me. We gotta go back to the votes. Or that did remind me. Sorry, we're gonna talk about the votes in a second here. Maybe we'll do that in the next episode. I don't know. So, anyways, what was I saying? Darn it. Yeah, I like where we're at with the landscape. We get that finished pretty much in the next episode. I have very little amounts of tweaks that I want to actually do to it, other than decorations like trees, rocks, extra stuff like this pathing here. This is extra stuff, but the reason I was putting this down is because I'm trying to figure out, like, I wanted to do something to animate the Yetis. So in my mind, I was thinking, okay, maybe we could destroy the gingerbread station and have all Yetis like looting it. Well, if the Yetis are looting it, they have to be taking the loot back to the cave, right? So if they're, they have to have a stockpile of candy at home base. So how do they get to and from home base? They had to have created some sort of path to get to the Candy Land, and some sort of traffic flow for their to and from. So right here, this pathing is not for the guests. This is for the Yetis. They put these boards down for whatever reason, and they're creative little guys, and they're innovative. So they think outside the box. They figure putting some pathing down might make the walk more comfortable, safer. They won't slip. So they built this pathing system to get to and from Candyland so that they can bring their loot. Now when we have our looters, bringing back presents and candies and trinkets and baubles and all that stuff, they're going to be walking up and down these paths and this path is going to like kind of lead up the backside and into the cave, and there's going to be like a jackpot, like a pile of candy and a pile of loot and some other fun stuff that I have surprised. We're going to have a ride up there for the guests with a special unique ride skin, but I don't want to make any promises, but I have a good idea in my head. But half the time some ideas are good in theory, but when you try to put them into practice, they might not work out. And I don't really want to spoil it by talking about it, because I want you guys to have something to be surprised about and excited about in the future episodes. So a lot of my little prepping work here is trying to get the to and from making sense so that we can actually work on the to, and if that makes sense. So I want to make sure that our train station's in a good spot, that there's a believable pathway to and from. And here the cave was just too dark, so now I'm going off a side tangent saying, okay, well, let's just light this thing while we're at it. If we're going to light these caves so we can build a pathway, let's just light up the whole cave, because we lit up that other fantasy cave with the waterfall. Let's take the techniques that we've learned with the spotlights or the floodlights, and let's use a mixture of light blue and dark blue lights to make this thing illuminated and give it that really cool out of this world look. So I really like the way this looks. I mean, it's not realistic, but like I said, we're building a fantasy world with its own set of rules. So it is what it is, and I think it looks cool. I just thought a white light in there looked good for some reason. A little, like, I don't know, for some reason I liked it, and I kept it. So we make this whole cave light up so that we can see our Yetis, because eventually we're going to have some sort of a coaster running through here, I think. And then we are also going to have a ride in there. We don't really have a lot of flat space to work with in terms of building a park on this side, so I figure a few main attractions that really force the guests to take the train over here, will be enough. We can have a few shops, but there's not really a good Yeti theme in this game, so I don't really want to go crazy with the decorations. So all these little pathways and flat spots are really just for the Yetis to walk around and some coasters to navigate through. So it's really there's not going to be too much construction over here other than Yetis living their lives in these caves, some torches, some, you know, Yeti activity, and then the main attraction, which will be in the main part of the cave where the Momma is. So, yeah, we're just lighting it all up. Now, what I wanted to say here, I have to bring up my Google page here. In the 1,000 subscriber special, we did a vote, and Oosh named the Papa Yeti Frank, and we were going back and forth on a name for the female Momma Yeti. I came up with Betsy, she came up with Darla, and we let the fans vote on it. So I have to pull up my video manager here while you guys watch what's happening there. And if I can find it, here it is. I think I'm gonna pull pulling the vote now, I think. So where is it? So it was 51% Betsy and 48% Darla. Now, how do I figure out who voted on what? Sorry, I haven't... okay, here we go. Yeah, 51% Betsy, 48% Darla. There was 47 participants in the voting. 24 people voted Betsy, 23 people voted Darla. Wow, that is close. So Betsy wins by 1 vote. And technically I betted for Betsy. So it was a tie. That's hilarious. It's pretty much a tie. But we're pulling the votes now. Her name is Betsy. I guess we can give them a little name tag or something in the future here. And that'll be fun. So I was thinking we need, for the base land of this park, I thought it would be really cool if we have a coaster that comes with the scenario. So the scenario comes with a train, 5 unique stations. It comes with maybe 1 flat ride or 2, and the whole crazy map that's themed out, and tons of spots to build on, tons of places to build your park. But wouldn't it be cool if it came with a coaster? So, you know, 1 coaster to kind of set things off, because there's a lot of scenarios in the game that start you off with a coaster, and I figured why not? So I'm contemplating making a big coaster that has the train station, or the boarding platform, the coaster station in the Yeti cave. So that's the attraction here, is 1 flat ride inside this cave, plus a boarding station for a coaster somewhere in this cave, and that coaster kind of goes around some parts of this map, this area of the map, and it goes through all these ice canyons and stuff. So I figured, as a tribute, because the votes were so close, we could name the coaster Darla. Because she lost by 1 vote, and as a tribute to Darla, and for all the people that voted for Darla, Darla is going to still be remembered as a coaster. So I think that's a good idea. What do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments below. And then that'll also be a fun let's build or let's play episode where we actually build Darla the coaster that wraps around the Yeti cave, and maybe even spirals, like where we had that waterfall and stuff. Maybe it goes in past the waterfall and through that hole in the top and does all this cool stuff, and it's a very scenic coaster. and hopefully a thrilling one too. It's probably going to have to be a launch coaster as well, because we don't have too much room for lifts, and we don't want these big ugly lifts. So I think that's a fun idea. I think it's a good idea to have a starting coaster on this map to set the tone, because we can really theme the coaster. It can have blue and white tracks or blue and white supports, and we could have some, blue and white triggered event lights on the track. We can do all sorts of stuff, like have yetis hanging from the cave, and the coasters like you see all these yetis hanging and stuff, and you're flying by the yetis as you're going through. So I think it would be fun, before we start filling up the cave with yetis, we build the coaster and then we place the yetis, so you can kind of see them while you're riding the coaster. So anyways, that's a lot of talk, and that's we got to know what her name is, we pulled the votes, but now we're actually starting to do some fun animations. So I want to stop ranting about other stuff while I was doing kind of mundane tasks and start talking more about fun stuff. So we mentioned this back in episode 2 or 3 or something around the lines there, while we were building Darla. Oh my god, I called her Darla. While we were building Betsy, darn it. So anyways, when we were building Betsy here, I came up with the idea of the reason I had her hands out is because I wanted to have Christmas lights wrapped around her hands, and the Christmas lights were, descending from her hands, like she's holding these rows of Christmas lights, and she could have all of her children hanging off the lights, sort of like she's like, "Descend, my minions, go forth and wreak havoc onto this world." And so now we're doing it. We're putting that into action here. So we're wrapping the Christmas lights around our hands. We're trying to build the Christmas lights, and I didn't want to just have a straight line at the bottom. So, if it would likely be like a coil wrapped up on the ground. So, there's some slack to the rope. So we're going to put like a coil all the way around the ground. And then, I didn't want it to be so perfect looking, so I'll end up taking this and putting a bunch of them down, so it looks like it's been wrapped up by, an extra 100 meters on the ground. So she had tons of room to work with. There you go. And I'm also wanted to do this because we are on our final phases of the lighting and our terrain. So I don't want to make too many adjustments to the terrain because we've already done a good amount of the lighting. So we need to know the exact position from which the right arm descends the lights down to the ground, because I had a feeling it would hit the water. And if it hits the water, that means we're going to have to add terrain there, and I don't want to make too many adjustments to the terrain if we start finalizing things. So I felt like this was a good time to start the wrapping of the Christmas lights around her hands, because now we can run it to the ground, do our last, final touches to the outside of the Yeti cave in terms of terrain sculpting. And then, we can see here that we need more realism. So the Yetis are descending from the lights, and where do they go to and from there? So they use this as a way of transportation. Momma lets them down, Momma lets them up, and they're going to need some sort of pathway below. So there's going to be, like they've walked back and forth from this path for for quite some time now. So it has to feel like lived in a bit. There needs to be some deterioration. There needs to be some like kind of wear and tear in the snow, like a pathway of some sort. So we're doing all that now and setting it up. So we can have some Yetis at the bottom here. We don't end up putting any Yetis at the bottom. We're going to save that for later once like we really get the looters in and the war started. I'm going to start really putting ground Yetis all over the place, because I do know I'm going to want to make some adjustments in terms of adding more rocks, adding more trees, and doing a little bit of stuff like that. But this episode, or what we're doing now, is we're descending the Yetis. So we're going to fill this rope up with as many baby Yetis as possible, and we're going to pose them and do some cute things to them because, you know, they're all close to home. They're with Momma. Momma lets the kids out. Momma lets the kids in. And this is how they do it. This is their kind of this is one of their ways of transportation. And there's also that hole in the back of Mama's cave. We're going to build, because you saw me in the last episode, build a path that goes into the bottom of the left-hand side of the cave, and it comes out the back. So we're going to build some sort of staircase or ladder or something that lets the Yetis go up into the cave on their own. So they don't always rely on Momma, but when Momma wants to let a whole bunch of her kids out at once, it's much easier to do that using Christmas lights. So that's what we're doing here. But I figured, make it believable, make it realistic. We're going to need multiple ways of transporting these Yetis around, so the back entrance is a good way to have the looters coming to and from. So here I'm trying to pose a Yeti like as if he was holding onto a rope, you know, kind of descending, sliding down, or climbing up, depending on whatever your imagination feels like. And his feet are a little dangling, but he felt too vertical. He needed a little bit of an adjustment there, like he's pulling his hips forward, putting some of his, you know, his hips into the rope. So just adjusting that position a little bit was good. And I always duplicate and put one off to the side so I can easily grab another and start posing him. And I don't want them to all be the same, so we do a little bit of a rotation, a different angle. And they are very similar right now, so we will dress them up and we'll make them all look different. And we're going to put them at different heights and stuff like that. But I didn't exactly like just having one pose either. So we're going to play around with, I think, 2 or 3 poses, maybe even 4, just to get some variety in there. So they're not all hanging the same way. So that's what I start doing here. I wanted to have kind of like a one-arm hang. Like this guy's like he's showboating a little bit. Like, look at me. Because our Yetis have a lot of strength. They're kind of like monkeys. You know, they can climb really well. They're adapted to this environment. If they slip and fall, they don't really get hurt that easily. They're used to big icy hills, giant heights, and that sort of thing, and nothing really scares them. So they're very confident and you know, brash. So we want them showboating a little bit, showing off a little bit, and being a little bit cocky. So they're just having fun, dangling from the rope, and he's just free swinging there. So that's another pose. I wanted to put a few of these on the rope and one on the side, and then we'll do another one right after this, and I believe one more. We don't want to have too many on this, but we want to have it very popular. We want it busy. So it's simulating the idea that Mama's letting the kids out and they're going to go play. And their version of playing is breaking gingerbread houses and destroying snowmen. So then this helps sell the story that we're trying to create. When you see this and you see the little war going on and you see the destruction, it really starts telling a story, and this is sort of where our story begins. Momma lets the kids out, Papa's on his way home, and you can see what lies in its wake. So this guy, I wanted to do something different with him. I wanted him to kind of like swinging a little bit, like, hey, look at me. Just playing, you know. These crazy little boys want to play and have fun. But we can't just have all boys, so we will put some girls in as well. And that comes in the decorating phase. And I like the guy that we had on our 1,000 subscriber sign at the very top. Just, you know, screaming at the top of the world. So I had to do another one here. And, you know, he's Mama's little big boy. and he's going to be, we're going to gear him up, make him like a little guardian, and that'll be fun, a little ferocious guardian. And I wanted to hang one off of her. I want to hang them off of her. I started getting the idea, like, they love Momma. Everybody loves Momma. So the babies are like climbing onto her. Just like, you know, hanging on off her legs, hanging onto her hair, and they're just climbing all over her like silly little children do to their mamas. So I just wanted to pose this guy like he was hugging and like clinging. So we're trying to get his arm just right in a position where he can be clinging on. But the problem is their faces are so forward that I didn't want to like stick his face into her. So we had to turn his head a little bit here. And I want him to be happy looking, like, yay, Momma! And so he's hanging on to Momma here. And he's super happy about it. Like, this is my mommy. And and his little legs are dangling off. It is ridiculous. I love it. I'm having so much fun with this, guys. And it feels good to be back in Yeti Land and doing these animations for you guys. So hopefully you guys are glad this series is back, because we found time to get back to the series, because I'm starting to have a lot of fun with it again. And I think things are going to start speeding up from here on out, because a lot of the times when you're doing this stuff, you have creative blocks, you're trying to come up with ideas, you start from a blank map, and you got to work your way from there. And when you start getting to a phase where you can see things coming together, you can start fitting the pieces in faster and faster and faster and faster. It has a snowball effect, no pun intended. It literally just, the snowball goes faster and bigger, and you can get more done in a shorter amount of time. The one thing that I've found here, just as a bug, for whatever reason, when you separate something from an other building and you combine it into a new building, the rotation widget gets messed up. Like up and down for that object just became completely screwed up. As you can see here, it's not in line with the sword. It's up and down on the sword is supposed to be flush with the blade, but the rotation widget is completely broken. And it's because I took a group out of another group and I combined it to a new group, and it was like, what? Like the game remembered the translation rotation history from a previous object. There really needs to be a freeze transformation and clear history button on selection groups, but that probably is too advanced for a video game, but it's very common in any editor, like Unreal, Maya, 3D Studio Max. It's just a common tool, and it would be really nice to be able to reset transformations on objects, because I was having that trouble with all of these things, and it made placing them so much more difficult because nothing was aligned properly. But I guess sometimes you just got to start a new building and grab the object from the menu again and just start all over. But I was trying to save time by having things laid out in another building so I could grab them, separate them, and put them into a new one to make things faster. But it actually made things slower because I had to fiddle with it a little bit more. Anyways, just some feedback, I guess, there, and a complaint. So now we're just decorating our Yetis and having a good time. Oh yeah, I was saying the snowball effect. Things are going faster and faster. In this next episode, after this, we flush out the rest of our terrain. So we get Yeti Land, I'd say 95% done in terms of terrain. I don't see too much being changed with the terrain in the future, and we've got our area ready to start building our war zone. We could start destroying our gingerbread house. We can go ahead and make our ice castle train station, or whatever I end up deciding to do. Our train is run into Yeti Land. We just have to build the train station. So once we get our stations done, we can really just have at her. Do the war, have the fun, get it all in there, and finalize this scenario. And we're not too far off after that to do an actual Let's Play where we build a park, we put down rides, we open it up, and all that stuff. I'm still unsure how I want to do it. Like, I'm going to ask you guys right now, should we build the park and have an opening day when it's all done and just watch the people pour in and like just have a park day where, you know, it's the first time we've ever opened up Yeti Land and we watch the guests pour in and we see where they go, and we just have fun with it, and we just watch opening day and have that as like our final celebration video? Or should we do it day by day, have the park open, work on a section, present that section at the end of the day, watch the guests play in that section, and we go build another section in the next episode? I don't know. I haven't really thought about it, but we're already on year 35. I'm hoping there's a way to reset the dates by saving it out as a scenario and then opening it as a new one, and it's like year 1 again. There should be, because if not, that's a pretty bad fault in the game. We don't want this old-ass park. So, that's it for this episode, but I did a bunch of panning shots so you guys can see all the final results at real-time speed. It is 150 speed, but the camera's going pretty slow right now. But yeah, I just wanted you guys to get a better look at all the Yetis hanging off. That guy's throwing a snowman. That guy's got his barbarian blades. This guy's got a pipe and stuff. He's hanging by one arm. So we're just doing a few nice panning cameras so you guys can see it all. I believe there's one last night shot as well, so you can see what it all looks like at nighttime. We might do a few touch-ups to it at nighttime still. But yeah, you get a good look at all of the Yetis in real time here. So that does mean it's the end of the episode. So I'd love to know your guys' thoughts on this and everything that I've ranted about. If you have ideas, suggestions, if you just want to tell me how it's going, or what we're going to be what we're doing next, you know, I'll respond to you guys in the comments. And yeah, just let me know your thoughts and your suggestions. So that's really it for this episode. So hopefully you guys like it, and if you do, please be sure to smash that like button. And if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. And yeah, plenty more Yeti Land episodes to come, and hopefully we're going to start rolling them out a little bit faster throughout the next few weeks. So we do have another one coming out shortly after this. I'm probably going to space them out a day apart. Anyways, that's it for this episode, everyone. I will see you in the next one. Thanks.